The courtroom leaned in as Joe Rogan recounted a provocative story. He said Jennifer Lopez, who had dated Diddy and attended his parties, knew what he was really like, but had never warned anyone. Why hasn't she ever spoken out? Rogan asked, pausing for effect. That clip exploded online, getting millions of views, but what struck me was how quickly people rushed to defend J.Lo rather than asking what she might be hiding. He reminded the court of the 1999 nightclub shooting that resulted in Shine's prison sentence. Jennifer was reportedly in the car when the gun was allegedly tossed out the window. She maintained that Diddy wasn't responsible. He walked free while Shine took the fall, and Jennifer continued dating Diddy for 2 more years. Rogan let the silence linger before posing a pointed question. What does it say when someone walks away from a shooting, helps protect the man arrested, and stays with him while someone else goes to prison? He then added a chilling thought. What happens if you're only perfect for the devil? Rogan went on to highlight that while many celebrities publicly praised Diddy's philanthropy, none spoke up when the lawsuits began piling up. Where was J.Lo when the freak-off tapes were mentioned? Where was she when Shine finally told the truth about 1999? He asked. He concluded with a sharp statement. I'm not saying she did anything criminal. I'm saying silence in the face of abuse is complicity. Too many people in Diddy's orbit have mastered the art of disappearing when the cameras turn. Leaning forward, Rogan shifted to a story that had haunted him for months, involving what one of his off-the-record guests called the bunker. In 2022, a former bodyguard who had worked at Diddy's Miami compound appeared on his show but got cold feet, and the segment never aired. What he told me off mic stuck with me, Rogan said. The bodyguard described a reinforced, basement-like vault buried beneath the estate, accessible only by biometric scan. Inside, the witness claimed, were dozens of encrypted hard drives, the so-called black box, which Rogan described as Diddy's insurance policy. According to the bodyguard, this vault contained footage of freak-off parties, blackmail material, contracts, and hidden camera videos, not just of random attendees, but of celebrities, executives, and politicians. The courtroom gasped at this revelation. Although the defense team questioned the physical existence of the vault, Rogan noted that corroboration from multiple podcast guests lent weight to the claim as part of a larger behavioral pattern. He further explained that 2 other guests, both stylists who had worked with bad boy artists, independently described a downstairs room where security cameras faced inward. One stylist said she had been asked to sign an NDA in that very room after noticing what appeared to be a disguised peephole embedded in the mirror. That's what's chilling, Rogan said. People described these spaces and rituals in the exact same way, years apart, from different walks. The 7th day of the Sean Diddy Combs federal trial was already spiraling into chaos when an unexpected figure entered the courtroom. Joe Rogan, comedian, UFC commentator, and host of the world's most downloaded podcast. Without any entourage or lawyers, Rogan arrived carrying only a small black notebook and a memory full of disturbing truths. What had started as speculative commentary on his podcast had now become serious, as Rogan took the stand to testify under oath. His testimony went beyond gossip, offering first-hand experience, observations, and a trail of evidence that extended far beyond the usual headlines. The trial had begun amid a charged atmosphere, with the press gallery packed and rumors swirling. But nothing prepared anyone for Rogan's surprise appearance. Dressed casually in dark gray blazer and jeans, Rogan projected focus and calm as he took the stand, silencing the courtroom instantly. Cameras were barred, but court sketch artists scrambled to capture every detail. Diddy's defense team appeared baffled. When asked to state his name, Rogan began recounting conversations he had conducted over the years with ex-bodyguards, former label executives, and industry insiders, many too afraid to speak off the record. They approached him not as a judge, but as someone who wouldn't stop recording when the truth got uncomfortable. Then Rogan dropped Bombshell. In 2023, he had a guest on his podcast, a former security detail member for an A-list artist, who revealed that Diddy maintained physical evidence, files, videos, recordings, and a private server stored in a bunker-like room at his Miami compound. More chilling still, this guest claimed that public figures such as Jay-Z and LeBron James were aware of these freak-offs, not necessarily participants, but informed. The courtroom erupted in gasps. Diddy looked visibly disturbed. His lawyers objected, but the judge overruled them. Rogan went on to describe these gatherings as rituals rather than parties. Phones were confiscated from guests, who were often blindfolded. The term freak-off was industry code, and everyone behaved as if it were normal. When the prosecution asked if Rogan had brought any recordings, he nodded, confirming he had submitted excerpts to the district attorney's office before testifying. These contained audio of unnamed insiders discussing these events, some voices recognizable but kept anonymous to protect identity. Settling further into his testimony, Joe Rogan was permitted by the court to recount specific stories he had shared on his podcast over the past several years. He explained that he had been piecing together a disturbing pattern since as early as 2018. One of my early guests was a tour manager for a popular R/&B act, Rogan said. He came on to talk about the dark side of the music industry, drug culture, pay-for-play, and NDAs, but during the break, he told me something different. He said Diddy's parties weren't just indulgent, they were dangerous. Rogan emphasized that many of these conversations never made the final cut because people were scared to speak openly. One guest asked me to blur his voice, distort his name, and even record his segment from a remote cabin, Rogan recalled. He then mentioned a producer who had been invited to a Diddy-hosted event in 2015. What he witnessed there left him shaken. Cameras hidden in smoke detectors, people slipping substances into drinks, and A-list celebrities pretending not to notice. Joe read from notes taken during that off-air interview, quoting the producer, "I saw people being filmed against their will, and Diddy called it leverage." When the judge asked if these claims were verified, Rogan clarified, "Many were anecdotal, but too many lined up to ignore. These weren't rumors passed in hallways. These were detailed accounts, timelines, locations, multiple people describing the same set of behaviors." Rogan explained how he maintained a private archive of these unaired stories, protected by NDAs crafted with legal advisors. "I didn't want to be sued into oblivion, but I also didn't want this stuff buried," he said. He then referenced the Jane Doe lawsuits, noting, "I started connecting dots when names and behaviors in those lawsuits matched what my guests had been whispering for years." At one point, he revealed that in 2022, a prominent music video director came to him in tears. "He told me he had unreleased, uncensored footage of one of Diddy's parties," Rogan said. He was too scared to go public, but had been blackmailed into filming these events for over a decade. Joe concluded, "This isn't a court of opinion anymore. This is a reckoning, and I'm here because people who trusted me with the truth deserve to be heard, even if they're too afraid to show their faces." Taking a deep breath, Rogan then pivoted to a moment that had made headlines worldwide. Elon Musk's unexpected remarks on his podcast about Jennifer Lopez and Diddy. "It was casual at first," Rogan said. "We were talking about Hollywood hypocrisy, how certain celebrities speak up about politics but stay dead silent when it's about people they actually know." Elon had brought up Jennifer Lopez. Joe Rogan revealed something the courtroom had not heard before. 3 months ago, an anonymous whistleblower contacted his team, claiming to work for a third-party data recovery company in Miami. This person said they had been hired to extract encrypted video files from a corrupted server and alleged that some of the footage showed guests at Diddy's events in compromising situations. Rogan admitted he hadn't aired this information but had archived it, knowing that if the trial escalated to a federal seizure level, the government might already have possession of that drive. Looking directly at Diddy, Rogan challenged him, saying, "If you're innocent, let them search the basement, open the vault, release what's in the black box." By this point, the courtroom atmosphere had shifted dramatically. Rogan was no longer just a celebrity witness. He had become an informant exposing a pervasive pattern of manipulation, fear, and silence. "I want to talk about patterns," Rogan said, flipping through a thick set of handwritten notes. "Because this isn't just about parties. It's about control, fear, image, and silence." He proceeded to lay out a list of past crimes allegedly committed by Jay-Z, explaining that he had seen evidence but remained silent. Multiple insiders, ex-security personnel, dancers, personal assistants, and producers had all mentioned the same dynamic. Jay-Z and Diddy were like two sides of the same coin, one loud and chaotic, the other controlled, quiet, and calculated. Yet the scenes surrounding them were always disturbingly similar. Rogan recounted confronting an industry insider about why no one ever called out this behavior. The insider had laughed and told him, "You don't take down Puff without pulling him down too." The prosecution seized on this remark, as it supported their theory of institutional protection. People turning blind eyes to maintain access, status, and power. Rogan added, "If Diddy was the fire, Jay-Z was the smoke detector that never went off." He then described how his team had received anonymous warnings urging them to drop the topics related to Diddy. One email read, "Don't dig too deep, Joe. you'll end up like the ones who did. Rogan's team traced the IP address of the sender to a firm linked to Roc Nation's PR team. The judge allowed Rogan to share this with the jury, but issued a cautionary note. Looking the jury in the eyes, Rogan declared, "Silence is a weapon, and this entire machine is built on people keeping their mouths shut, but I'm not built that way." Rogan's tone grew heavier as he introduced the last group of names. Those he said were in the wrong room at the wrong time. "You all remember the Manzero lawsuit," he began, referring to the case where a man claimed he was paraded around one of Diddy's parties wearing a mask made from human anatomy. "That's not a rumor," Rogan stated firmly, underscoring the gravity of the allegations and the systemic darkness lurking beneath the surface. Joe Rogan spoke with someone who had been on that infamous yacht, describing a young videographer in his early 20s hired to film an event in January 2023. The videographer was instructed to capture only the happy moments, but what he witnessed left him traumatized, and he never fully recovered. Joe then read from an anonymized transcript. Celebrities like LeBron James, Gloria Estefan, Jay-Z, and Beyoncé were present, with people smiling on the surface. But the deeper into the yacht's rooms you went, the darker the scene became. There were rooms bathed in red light, people restrained, and a masked man being led around like a pet. The courtroom fell completely silent. The videographer claimed he handed over his memory cards at the end of the night and was paid $5,000 by Diddy's team. "The people we idolize are in the rooms where it happens," Rogan said, closing with a chilling warning. "If even one of those tapes gets played in court, half this industry is finished." He looked down, closed his notebook, and added, "I'm not afraid of getting sued. I'm afraid of what happens if we keep pretending this doesn't exist." Rogan's tone shifted again as he moved from celebrity complicity to the infamous 2023 yacht party, which had only been whispered about in court filings until now. "The yacht story. People think it's a myth," he began, "but it's real, and I have testimony from two different people who were on that boat. One crew member, one guest." The courtroom froze, and Diddy's legal team whispered frantically. Rogan unfolded a letter from a former yacht staffer, redacted to protect their identity. The staffer was hired for what they believed was a private music video shoot and was told that all passengers were VIPs and that phones were strictly prohibited. Security patted them down before boarding. Rogan paused before continuing. "Once the boat was in international waters, it looked like a warm-up act." He glanced at Diddy and said, "I don't know if you started this, I don't know if you inherited it, but I know you kept it going, and now you're watching it crumble from the inside out." When the judge asked if Rogan had anything else to add, he nodded slowly. "I've said a lot on the mic. Some of it dumb, some of it funny. But this is the one time I needed every word to count. Because if even one kid out there is saved from stepping into that kind of nightmare, then all of this, every threat, every NDA, every silent producer, was worth breaking." He stepped down from the stand, and the jury watched in silence as Rogan walked past the defendant's table. For the first time in days, Diddy didn't look up.